You've tamed the voices in your head. You've put your courage to the test. Laid all your doubts to rest. Your mind is clearer than before. Your heart is full and wanting more. Your future's at the door. Give it all you got. No hesitating. You've been waiting all your life. This is your moment.
Hello, world. This is Marci Kornegay, and I'm joined today by CEO and founder of WisSports, Chris Stafford. She is letting me have the microphone today, which I'm super thrilled about, so that we can do a recap show and highlight her on our previous trip that we just got back from, a long bike trip. You might know about it. We put it out on social media a little bit, but it's a piece of the Potomac Heritage Trail, which is a system of trails consisting of roads, of gravel, dirt trails throughout the mid-Atlantic states, including Virginia, a lot of Maryland, Pennsylvania, and through the city of D.C. Unlike other long-distance national scenic trails like the Appalachian Trail or the Pacific Crest Trail, the PHT, or the Potomac Heritage Trail, it's not a continuous stretch of trail. So you don't go from one point to another on this long stretch. It's just a culmination of a lot of trails that you can piece together. And that's exactly what we did. You can create various routes and alternative side trails. And so last week on Tuesday, April the 19th, Chris and I set out on a blustery, quite cold for spring type day with the remnants of a nor'easter reminding us that Mother Nature is definitely to be respected. And just before, as a matter of fact, getting into this, we were driving in snow, tending to the logistics of dropping cars off at our terminus point in Pittsburgh. We were driving in snow and blustery wind and all bundled up, wrapped up, thinking, what are we doing? And we were able to conquer 427 miles of the 710 miles of the Potomac Heritage Trail. We started out at Point Lookout State Park off the Chesapeake Bay in Maryland, riding north 96 miles through D.C. to connect at the eastern terminus in Cumberland, Maryland, where we picked up then the Great Allegheny Passage, or known as the Gap, and biked along 150 miles to finish up in Pittsburgh, ending our trip and leaving us plenty to talk about. And so without further ado, I want to get into this and crack into Chris's head and her heart and get her true feelings on what she was able to accomplish this past week. Welcome to your show, Chris.
Thanks, Mars. It's lovely to have the table turned as well, because I've always told you're a natural podcaster, as well as being my hero. Let's just get that out there at the top of the show. You are my hero. When I first met you and heard that you had hiked the Appalachian Trail solo a few years ago now, I knew you would be the kind of woman that I would want to take on a big adventure with. And that proved absolutely to be the case when we took on this Potomac Heritage Trail. And I have to say, I would not have done it without you. And I could not have chosen anyone better as my riding buddy every step of the way. You were the navigator, the organizing the accommodation every day, and navigating us, especially through the most difficult, the first 2 days of it before we actually got on the C&O Canal path, and then the Gap, as you said. So, yeah, you're my hero, Marci, and of course we want to just remind everybody why we did this.
Yeah. First of all, I want to point out that you said you would not have done it. And that's a really, really key word that I would definitely want to unpack a little bit later on, but very important. We did this because we needed to do it as a cause bigger than ourselves. And you came up with the idea that, so many Ukrainian people are suffering, they're trying to cross the borders, and the refugees out there, they're really struggling. And so to make this ride bigger than us, you had the great idea to donate money to the World Central Kitchen. And immediately I was on board with that. So thank you for having that forward thinking and, making it about a hard adventure as well as a physical challenge.
Well, it certainly motivated us every step of the way. And so the ride is dedicated to the Ukrainian refugees, and so is this podcast.
Yeah, that's excellent. Can we dive in? Because shall we dive in? First of all, how is your recovery going?
Great. Thanks to my chiro, Holly Moriarty. I wouldn't, be able to keep going without her. I see her regularly. And my massage therapist, I just spent an hour and a half on her table. And between the two of them, they've really helped. And I've given my body a couple of days off. In fact, the day after, because we finished on Tuesday, I can't remember what date that was, the 26th that we finished, 26th of April, and it's now Friday, April 29th, so I gave my body a couple of days off. But the first day, Marci, my Apple Watch was screaming at me, harassing me all day, saying I hadn't met my exercise, my move, or my stand goals, and I'd just been on the couch all day.
There's nothing wrong with that. Mine was yelling at me during the ride, and I felt really guilty that I couldn't stand more than 2 times during the day, but I was exceeding everything else. And now it thinks I'm a slacker too. So it's okay. As a matter of fact, my watch is sitting on my bedside table, and I have not put it on the last 2 days. I won't give it a reason.
That's a great idea. Yeah. We definitely exceeded, I think, during that 8 days on our bike. 10-hour days we were on our bike, and I think we, like 400% over our regular goals on the watch. Yeah,
that's a long time to be sitting anywhere, much less on a 3x6 inch piece of plastic and minimal foam. Well, first of all, Chris, where did this idea come from to take on this long distance trip? I mean, what is it about blank, that appealed to you?
Well, I just started riding a bike again a couple of years ago, for various reasons, not least of all because of injuries. I hadn't been able to cycle until a couple of years ago. I bought myself, in fact, it was just before COVID broke out. I got really lucky because, there was a run on bicycles soon as COVID hit us. But I managed to buy a bike that suited me, a hybrid bike, because I like to do a lot of gravel roads around Middleburg, Virginia. And as I was getting stronger and fitter and enjoying the ride so much, I thought I'd love to do something bigger. And you've always been my inspiration for taking on big things, not least of all having done the 18, a lot of other hikes as well. And you're about to do the Pacific Crest Trail. So thinking, why not take on something bigger and test myself, really see what I'm capable of. And then, as we know, the war broke out in Ukraine. I thought, let's do this for a cause worthwhile. So it wasn't part of a bigger group. It was just you and I wanting to do an adventure, right? Because we talked about doing something for fun and an adventure anyway. So why not this?
I love that. For fun. About halfway through the trip, was it still fun?
Yeah, we did do it for fun, didn't we, Mason?
It was for fun, every step of the way, or every pedal of the way. What did preparation look like for you? I know that there was the physical preparation, perhaps mental or emotional type preparation. What types of preparation got you ready?
Well, there was the training, and of course, with the winter here in Virginia, I wasn't able to start as soon as I could outdoors, which, I walk every day, sometimes a couple of times a day, and, maybe 4 or 5 miles in total a day. But usually when I'm biking, I'll do a bike ride, and certainly in the season, I'll get up 5 o'clock and I'm out at first light to get it done before the heat of the day. But I wasn't able to do that. And in hindsight, it would have been better preparation if we'd have done this a little bit later, but we couldn't, of course, because your schedule. So we had to go with what we had. And so I got biking as and when I could out there. It was pretty darn cold, I have to say, training. But I set myself up a goal, and Normally I would rest more often, recover, maybe ride every other day would have been ideal to build it up over a longer period of time, but I didn't. So I had to crush it a little bit. And in the last couple of weeks, I was riding every day up until we tapered at the end. And I took 3 days off before we got onto the ride, Mars, and I wish I'd have only taken 2 days off. I felt it that first day. But then we did have pretty tough conditions, as you pointed out earlier, on that first day.
Yeah. Going back, just hearing you talk about your preparation, it's always about go, go, go. I had to go do more miles. I crushed it. You use words like that to explain and describe the things that you did to prepare for this. Was there any doubt in your mind that you weren't going to be ready for this?
I didn't know until we actually were pedaling every day whether I was going to be ready for it. But I always, physically, but I always knew mentally that I had the fortitude and the determination to do it.
That's phenomenal. Earlier on, Chris, you talked about some injuries. And, I wasn't aware of some of the things, we can call these injuries, setbacks, speed bumps, if you will, or these limitations and recoveries, more importantly. And I think the only thing that I was aware of when you were sharing some of these things with me on the ride was, we've only known each other a couple of years now, and we've had the opportunity to hike in Virginia a little bit. And I saw firsthand you fall into a rabbit hole and tear a tendon. And I think there was a fracture. And so that's the only thing that I'm aware of. But that was a fairly quick recovery compared to some of the things that you've been through. And I do want to spend a little bit of time on this because I think that the recovery process and getting not only physically ready, but mentally and getting yourself ready to pick yourself up and do hard things, I think that contributed probably to the success of the ride.
Yeah, I've had some pretty limiting injuries in my career because, as you know, I rode horses in my first career and I had a lot of injuries and some involving my back, which halted my career. I had to retire early because of them. And there were many times where I faced real adversity with my injuries that I never would have thought I'd be able to do this, Mars. Never at that time. I look back now and realize that I actually lost 35 years of my, probably my best physical years, fighting injuries, major injuries that seriously incapacitated me. And it was hard to imagine that I could get past them enough to get fit and strong enough to take on a challenge like riding a bike 10 hours a day for 8 days. But it just shows that you never know until you keep going and you get there. You never know what's around the corner, literally. And I think riding a bike, and as much as we were going around so many bends, you just never know what's there in life. And physically on a day-to-day basis. In our case on the ride, it could have been a mountain to climb when our legs were tired, and we thought, we might be going downhill and enjoying flying downhill, which I love doing, but I'd almost sort of dreaded doing it because we knew there'd be a climb on the other side and we didn't know how big it was. So it teaches you a lot of life lessons that you really don't know till you get there. What you can do, what you have done, and I think it teaches you a lot doing something big that's out of your normal routine and out to your normal space. We call it comfort zone, but I think it's your lifestyle, your routine. It's a lot of things mentally and physically.
I love that parallel. Comparing life to the, what's around the corner. And I think in our case, the elevation and the grades, when you were talking about, what's around the corner, left or right, I'm thinking, no. What's going to be up and over that hill that we have to climb up? But I there's a lot of inspiration that goes along with, piecing parts of your body back together and putting it under duress and, trying to make magic happen outside of your comfort zone. And I love the fact that you're open to that and that you're using it to continue to motivate yourself to continue to do, more challenging and harder things.
And you learn like the stamina, the endurance of your mental fortitude. In a day-to-day basis, you think, oh, yeah, I'm a strong woman, we can do things. That's day-to-day. But when you put it to the test over time, then you start to learn things about yourself in a way. I mean, you do it with your long, long hikes, Marci. So you know what it requires every day. There is no giving up. When we think of some of the grades that we were climbing, and I could only do it like they were so steep, 45 degrees off, in the mountains with just hiking trails, not even pathways, pushing our load of 30, 40 pounds, whatever it was. There's no giving up. You can't give up because you've got to get to the other side. How you do it, you adjust your pace. And for me, at my time of life, I don't have the strength that I did when I was your age. And so I could only do 4 or 5 strides at a time. Pause, 4 or 5 strides. And, just keep going like that. But there was no giving up.
I think that's what's pretty unique about us and what makes us, good adventure partners, so to speak, is that we were both blessed with a stubborn gene inside of us that if we make a plan or we say that we're going to do something, we're going to show up and we're going to be there early and we're ready to go and we're going to finish. We're going to finish anything that we put out there. And I think that's what's one of the things that I know personally drives me.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And, as hard as those climbs were, and they were tough, those two, as we know, were the main one when we had a 1.5 mile detour around the Paw Paw Tunnel in Maryland. We knew there was going to be a detour. We knew that the tunnel was closed for construction, but we didn't know really how long and what that climb amounted to. And it was a hot afternoon. And it was tough. I think it was about halfway through that, or just over halfway through that day, wasn't it, Marci? And yeah, I mean, there was no time that we thought, we weren't making. We just, that's not part of our psyche. And, I might have used up my daily quota of 4-letter words out on that ride.
Well, we won't ask what those were. We can only imagine. I'll tell you what, the thing I remember about that day was like, oh, okay, well, silver lining, I am not sitting on my bicycle seat right now. I'm actually using different muscles climbing up. And eventually, whatever we have to climb on to get up, we're going to be able to go back down. Little did I know we were going to have to walk the bikes back down. It was way too steep, way too much for our bikes to handle with the loads and everything. But it was extremely wet, with all the snow melt that we had a couple of days ago. And I just remember those little bitty splashes of water on my legs felt pretty good.
Yes, I agree. Splashing through the mud, that was fun. I felt like a mountain biker for a while there.
That's good. So did you learn anything that you didn't know about yourself on this trip? Was there anything special that you picked up and said, you know what? I learned this and this is good.
Well, as you know, the biggest challenge for me on this ride was overcoming my fear of heights.
Yes. I didn't know that you had a fear of heights until it took one bridge. And to witness the physical fear that happens to your body. And I can't imagine what's going on between your ears at this point.
It wasn't just a bridge too far. It was several bridges too far. We should point out we were riding on an old railway track. So this is just for pedestrians and bicycles. There's no motorized vehicles on these tracks. So it's only wide enough for a train. And they were pretty darn high. When they built those railway lines, they built them high to pass over rivers and roads and across ravines. And the highest I think we crossed was the Salisbury Viaduct near Myersdale in Pennsylvania. And that was over 100 feet high and over 1,500 feet long over a river and over an interstate.
Where the cars and the people were tiny, tiny little ant-sized things.
Tiny.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for some reason I was always in front of you going over those bridges, and you'd be behind me like saying, go on, you can do it, just go. Like,
Shut up, Mars. Shut up. Well, I can tell you right now, I know why you were always in front of me. But, that's a whole nother story. You were always in front of me. I couldn't catch up.
Oh, you could at any time you wanted to.
I couldn't catch up. So going back to your fear of heights, do you feel like that's something you might have conquered, or is it still there? Okay.
No, it's still there. Right till the last one, and I didn't count how many we crossed, and there were a lot. I thought, Marci, there must have been 12. I don't know, dozen. I don't know. How many do you think we crossed?
I didn't notice them at first until I saw the visceral reaction that you were experiencing. And then I'm thinking, I'm glad I'm not scared of heights. This is a bad place to be scared of heights. But I wasn't going to let you know that. As far as you knew, everything was okay. Everything was okay.
Right. But even you said that, and you're much braver. You don't have the fear of heights that I do. But there were some that were, moments.
Yeah. But you did
there
it.
Really were. But yeah, I did it. I think one of the last but one we did going into Pittsburgh, that was pretty scary too, because that was very narrow and far too long, and I didn't feel at all secure on that. I was shaking. White knuckle rides. And I'd get to a certain point on the bridge, maybe just over halfway, and then I could focus on the land on the other side. So I learned to do that. And I knew that I could not have walked over these bridges, because that would have, been a much more powerful fear. It was bad enough on a bicycle, but at least having, because I was a little bit higher, but at least I felt I could do it on a bicycle, then I don't think I could have done it walking. And I think I said to you on the ride, if you'd have told me before we did this that there were all these very high bridges along the way, I would have probably said, sorry, Marci, can't do high bridges. Yeah.
Well, I have a new appreciation, and I'm being very sincere here. I sort of giggled it off at first thinking, it's just heights. Come on, let's go. But I have a new appreciation for those fears that people experience. There is no manual, I understand, for people who are afraid of heights on how to do the next thing, get to the other side or whatever it is. But there is definitely not a manual for people to say supportive things that will actually work. So I was just thinking every time you'd cross a bridge thinking, I hope she makes it on the other side. I have no idea what I'll do next. But yeah, no, I am proud of you, because there was no way to get to Pittsburgh unless you're going forward. There is no way to turn around, because if you turn around, you're going to go right back up that hill that you just came down. And that is the last thing that we were going to do.
Yeah. Well, that big hill, of course, was the Allegheny Mountains we had to climb. That's another chapter. But I will say, my dear friend Elaine Fowler, who, knowing my fear of heights, it kept saying to me throughout, you can do it, face your fear, you can do it. And she said, on the next bridge, why don't you stand on the bridge and acknowledge your fear and say, okay, I know I'm afraid, but I can still do it anyway, and just put it behind you. I said, no, I couldn't do that. And the fear never got less. So I think that's the message. And I don't think that will change no matter what I do. My fear of heights is still there. And I wish, if I had a superpower, it would be to get rid of that.
Well, I would wish that for you as well. One of the other things, Chris, that I noticed on the ride is you have quite the support system, near and far away, that were very supportive, sending you, texts and messages and phone calls, giving you a little bit of support and, empowering words. Talk a little bit about that. I think that's really, really neat.
I am blessed, and I suppose that comes with, years of travel and the friendships that you build along the way. my friends were super supportive from all over the world of what we were doing, and cheering you on as much as me. Let's
Well, that's what I mean. I'm very thankful for that. So.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They loved. All I did was post little updates along the way on Facebook, because most of the money that I had raised, aside from other friends that are not on Facebook who contributed, was through Facebook. So a lot of people were following what we were doing because they had donated to World Central Kitchen and our fundraising effort. So I wanted to keep them updated as to how the trip went, and they seemed to enjoy, our photos, our stories, and they were super encouraging and cheering me on all the way. So, yeah, thank you to everybody who has been part of this journey with us.
Yeah. And really quick, talking about the fundraiser, I mean, we were able to, with the donations, giving back to World Central Kitchen, almost 600 meals were provided, I believe. Just under 600 meals. That's a lot of meals.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's still open. So if you want to contribute to and donate to the Ukrainian refugees who are being fed by the wonderful organization that's World Central Kitchen, please go to our fundraising page, which is justgiving.com/fundraising /riding for Ukraine. And we'll put a link in the show notes at wisports.com, and on social media, if you follow WisSports or Marci on her social media too, then you can go and chip in. And as you say, we're counting the meals, Mars, 600 meals and counting.
Yeah, and counting. I like that. Well, speaking of meals, I know the hiker world fairly well. And in the hiker world, we experience what we call hiker hunger, which sets in a couple of days after the start of a really big hike. What about you? Did you experience any biker hunger? Did you have mad cravings or just massive amounts of food that you wanted to gobble up?
That's a very interesting question, but I don't. And I learnt that much about doing a long ride is that I wasn't really hungry during the day. We had lots of snacks. We had lots of dried fruit, I still have some.
Tell me you have figs left, right?
I still have figs left.
Yeah.
And the protein bars. And then at breakfast, we would take a banana or two with us or some yogurt for lunch. But I really wasn't too hungry during the day, and I couldn't eat much before we left. I think I got it just right, actually, by not eating too much, because normally in training, I won't eat before I ride. I'll eat a big meal when I get back. But with a long ride like this, knowing you were going to be out there for 10 hours, I didn't want to fill myself up at the start of the day. So I thought that I would be hungrier during the day than I was, and I wasn't. And then, of course, in the evening, once we got to our destination at that stage, we got off our bikes and we were ravenous. We were tired and ravenous. So, yeah, we made up. But I mean, I was really ravenous. I don't know if I've ever eaten so fast some of the meals. I was starving, but not during the day. And did you find that? I mean, I think we talked about this when we were out there. Did any of that surprise you, Mas?
I kind of expected. You know what? I got really excited about all the little bitty, little snack breaks during the day, because once again, that was an opportunity to get off the seat, stand up, use a different muscle. But yeah, I am the type that I would like to eat a big breakfast and see how long that'll last. And, if I start to bonk or kind of crash in the afternoon, yeah, eat a little snack, but you can only have so many protein bars, right? And then, I did get hungry at night, but I will say that I felt like a college student. I don't think I've had so many meals or depended so much on gas station fare since I was a student. So yeah, I just have no desire to go to a gas station and see what's on the shelves anytime soon.
No, me neither.
Yeah. Well, Chris, what about expectations? I think expectations are something that we as a society, we as people place on things, especially things that are in our calendar, things that are coming up, things that we know have to do. And, placing your expectations on a pretty epic adventure like this. Were your expectations met? Did you have expectations? Were they exceeded? Were they not met?
That's a really good question, because it covers so many different things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And once you get on that journey, you get into a bubble of just what's in front of you, don't you? And because we didn't know, we could look on a map, and a map is flat, right? And we think, oh yeah, there's a hill, there's a mountain there we've got to climb. But until you do it every day, your expectations really have to be, okay, how far can you see in front of you? If it's a straightaway or if there's a hill. So overall, I didn't really have any expectations. I wanted to stay in the moment of what we were faced with every day. And that would be, the next few hundred yards. Sometimes we couldn't see. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we could see too far if we looked across the Allegheny Mountains and realized, oh, there's wind farms on the other side of the ridge there. We've got to get over there. So I think your expectations have to be kept in check, because you really don't know. It teaches you that, doesn't it? You really don't know what's around the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. I had no idea what to expect. I'd never ridden my bike for more than maybe 12 or 15 miles in one sitting before. I had no idea what I was going to feel or the experience I was going to have, if I was going to be tired at the end of the day. We didn't even know how many miles we were going to be able to ride each day, or exactly how long the trip would take. And I think that that's the biggest part of adventure for me, is the unknowns and problem solving and getting yourself out of situations that you might have gotten yourself in for whatever reason. And with that, yeah, it's easy to daydream about what it could be, or kind of have these light expectations. But when you get started and Mother Nature's huffing and puffing, dead wind in your face, yeah, the expectations are out the window. I did not expect that. So
yeah, they really are, and it taught me a lot of things, like being patient and staying in the moment. You hear all these phrases, Mars, don't you, in life? About you cross that bridge when you come to it. That's going to be my favorite.
Yes.
And you don't know what's around the corner, because when you're on a journey like this, we thought, okay, could we do 50, 60 miles a day? Yeah, we probably could. Based on my training, yeah, we probably could. But the reality of it, when you get out there and the terrain, the conditions, there's so many factors that make a 50, 60 mile an hour day different to the length of time it takes to do that, right?
Depending or the lack of resources, if
or
we
the
needed
lack of resources.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah. Yeah.
Was there a turning point in the trip where you were absolutely certain you were going to finish, or maybe you weren't sure if you're going to finish?
Oh, I knew before we even started I was going to finish.
Yeah.
There was no question in my mind. There was no time that I thought we wouldn't make it. That's just not part of my psyche, no more than it is yours, Mas. You're not going to give up. I'm not going to give up. We said we're going to do this. How long it would take, what that journey would be like, we didn't know for sure. We could only, research and look at the mileage and, look at the terrain a little bit, look at the weather forecast every day. But even when we looked at the weather forecast the night before, it might be different when we wake up. So you really, there's no way that either of us would have given up. I never thought for a minute we wouldn't get to Pittsburgh. But what I do find amazing now, what people seem to be impressed with what we've done, is when I look at the map and they say, well, has it sunk in? You must be very proud of that achievement. And like that's still sinking in. But what does hit it home for me is when I look at a map and see where Chesapeake Bay is and where we started, and then see where Pittsburgh is. I'm thinking, good grief, that's a long way.
That is a long way. That is a long way. On bike.
On a bike, yes.
On a bike. In the middle of nowhere, looking at the same thing over and over again. The monotony of the day.
Yes. Yes. But there's some sweet moments along the way, of course, memorable moments, many memorable moments that we'll always, I think, cherish or not. But the fact that I first saw my black squirrel, I got so close to a blue heron on the canal path that I could have touched it before it realized, oh, there's somebody on a bicycle. I'm getting out of here. But I could literally have reached to the side and touched him. And then I saw two black snakes up close, far too close. The first one, far too big. The second one, yeah, I squealed. You didn't believe me there was a snake.
Oh, you went up 3 octaves. I knew exactly what had happened. Yeah, but you were a regular Snow White out there. I mean, you were just the nature charmer. It was great.
Oh, it was fun. And you saw a moccasin, didn't you? A water moccasin.
Yeah,
what else did you see?
Yeah, the water moccasins.
And an owl.
Yeah, I did see an owl, and just a lot of deer were out there.
Lots of deer, rabbits, squirrels, chipmunks. Yeah,
very peaceful.
Very peaceful.
And a lot of other bikers, which is great. Love to see that.
Long and short distance bikers. In both directions, and some of them saying to us, "Are you really going that way? That's the hard way, going north." But I don't know if it was, Marci, because we still had the Allegheny Mountain to cross over if you're coming south. So I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I think that just a little bit of a grade along, we were going upriver the whole time. So with the locks and the canal locks and everything that you have to go up and over, it adds up. I could definitely feel it.
Guess.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, so I want to know, for those people that are out there that might be contemplating a challenge like this, what would be your advice on how to do it or how to get started? Because it really doesn't matter what age you are. Just getting started with something can sometimes be the hardest part.
Well, find somewhere that you think would be a fun place to go and see, a scenic trail, and, plan the time and certainly prep. And in terms of training, get yourself ready. Don't just go out there and do it and think you'll get over it, sleep it off the next day. But no, do some preparation for it so that you get the most out of it. And then think about your nutrition. Stay hydrated, of course, super important. And be realistic about how long it will take, and let somebody know you're out there.
Yeah. I know it's your life's mission, but what are some of the specific ways that you're inspiring other women to live more boldly?
Oh, gosh, I'd never thought of that.
It comes natural to you. That's probably why. I mean, you inspire me just by, doing and saying and your daily actions. But is that even something that you're aware of that you do?
No, but you inspire me. I've told you that. I love what you do. I love your attitude to what you do. So let me turn that around and ask you that question.
That's not fair. This isn't how this works. This is my podcast today. But I will say that, just hearing to you talk and how we mentioned earlier that there was never a doubt in either one of our mind that we weren't going to finish, I don't know what condition we might be in when we crossed the finish line, quote unquote, but we were going to finish. We weren't going to quit. I think it's really important to surround yourself with like-minded people that have those same beliefs, that have that same urgency to do things, that embrace challenges, that embrace difficult situations, and building that circle of people, of resources, of friends, of family, of support that encourage you that support you, that say nice things about what you're doing, because it's only going to help you reach new heights. And I think that's important. While we've been able to secure a friendship in such a short amount of time, there's not that many people that I would go and do a 7.5, 8 day bike road trip with so many unknowns. So no, thank you for one, the invitation, and two, the continued support.
Well, thank you, Mas. Seriously. You are, as I said, a great inspiration. I love you as a friend, and I am your big cheerleader for whatever you are going to do next. And I know that's the PCT next, and there'll be many more challenges that you just face them head on, and you're tough as they come. And I just have every confidence in you, and obviously I trust you. You're tremendously loyal as a friend and trustworthy. And if there was anybody out there that I'd want to do a big adventure with, I've said this before and I'll always say it, that it would be you. And I hope we can do more. I really do. It's never too old, as they say, to be bold and go out and try it, because you just never know in life what you can do till you try. As corny as that is, and I hate to keep using these well-worn expressions, but when you go out and give it a go, you know how it feels. And the people that say, oh yeah, I've been and done a little bit of that or a little bit of the other, until they've actually walked in the same path and done that as you have, they really don't know, because everybody has their own experiences of it, physically, emotionally, mentally, the psychological challenge, all of those things, as well as the physical experience in the moment. So, yeah, everybody should, be brave, just go and do it, and do whatever you're inspired to do and make the most of it.
I failed to mention to you, Chris, that the next adventure I want to go on is going to be skydiving, and I hope that you will come with me.
Oh, Mars, the one thing I have learned about you spending 8 days with you is that you're not always serious.
Yeah, okay. Good, because I'm not jumping out of a plane either.
And I will say, you did try the final gotcha when we got to Pittsburgh, where we had left your car in the parking lot, and we found it at the end of the ride, and there was no bike rack on the back of it. And you tried to tell me that it had been stolen, and I'm looking, and you were just waiting for me to fall into that one. It's like, no. I knew by then the extent of your sense of humor.
You got to keep it fun. What is the... So, yeah, I was just thinking of a few other things, just always trying to get you. So, Stafford, what does the future hold? Like, what are there any trips in the planning stages now?
I think I told you this on the trail. We're about halfway there, and I was thinking, what's next from Pittsburgh? What would be quite fun is, having come from one waterfront down at the Chesapeake Bay on the Eastern Shore to Pittsburgh, then the next waterfront would be Lake Erie. So as much as I wouldn't necessarily like to go to Pittsburgh again, it's not on my return list. I think I'd have to start there on the edge of town and then go up to Lake Erie. That might be quite fun. But I've got the W&OD trail here from Purcellville via Leesburg to D.C. I've not done that. That's only, I think, 45 miles. So that I can do locally. And I'm going to keep finding trails that I can just go off and do, within a day easily. But for the longer one, well, we're going to have to wait till you get back from the Pacific Crest Trail in October. And then we'll discuss our next adventure, won't we?
Deal. And maybe we can make our circle even bigger and bring some more women along with us.
Oh, right. Yeah. So just to reiterate, if you missed this at the top of the show, my dear friend here, Marci Kornegay, is about to do, on May 13th, she sets off for the, 2,600 miles, the Pacific Crest Trail?
Yeah, 2,650. So, yeah, just
2,650. There we go, from the desert of California on the Mexican border all the way north to Canada. And, yeah, I know you'll do it. Of course you'll do it. But I just hope you have the time of your life, Mars.
I appreciate it. I hope I do it too. I know I'll do everything that I can to make sure that the finish is there. There's always those things that get in the way that you can't help. But I know that I'll reach out into my depths to get this done so that we have a story to tell afterwards.
Yeah, and we're going to catch you on a podcast. You're going to tell a story along the way. Can you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. We can figure everything out. Yeah. Well, I've got to say that, Chris, being part of your stories, it's been a great inspiration to witness firsthand, not only your grittiness, but your determination, your stubbornness at times to live that, adventurous, authentic, and very, very full life. You're an accomplished athlete. You're a journalist, broadcaster. You're award-winning. You're an author. You're an artist. I have several pieces of your art. You're a badass and you're a risk taker. And the way that you live your life is motivation and influence for the rest of us. And I'm super proud to be a part of it, bud. So thank you for letting me and trusting me to share this story with you today. And trusting me to make it over the finish line to Pittsburgh with you and to book good hotels for us. Yes. And, and especially want to dedicate this again, the podcast and the ride to the Ukrainian people, World Central Kitchen. Again, justgiving.com/fundraising/writing for Ukraine. Are there any parting words from you?
Oh, Mars, thank you so much for doing this. I thanked you on trail, during trail, after trail, but thank you. It's been a pleasure. I've had the time of my life, and I really sincerely look forward to the next one. So yeah, to women out there, give it a go. Whatever floats your boat, give it a go, and just, have the time of your life.
Awesome. Fist bumps all around. And you can catch Wisp Sports on social media at Wisp Sports and also online at wispsports.com. And make sure you shout out and give this a like and a listen and share it with your friends. You can catch me. I'm going to be sharing my story on the PCT coming up on my Instagram account at Blonde Bear Hikes. That's Blonde Bear Hikes. Sharing as much as I can. Hopefully I'll get a chance to talk to Wisp Sports and Chris again. But in the future, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
It's closer than it's ever been, and now it's more than just a win. It's where your life begins.